Number 7. La Rosa Maria Walker Asakir and Dwight Broom Palmer, two high school basketball coaches at the Elite Scholars Academy in Jonesboro, Georgia, were criminally charged following the death of a student at basketball practice. Before she succumbed to heat stroke, 16-year-old Imani Bell was participating in a mandatory conditioning activity for the girls' basketball team on August the 13th of 2019. Outdoor temperatures had reached the upper 90s that day, and the area in which the school was located had been put under a heat advisory. In spite of the dangerous heat level, head coach La Rosa Maria Walker Asakir and her assistant coach, Dwight Broom Palmer, forced the players to continue their conditioning training outside. Bell was running up the steps of the bleachers when she suddenly indicated that she was under some sort of distress. She required physical assistance to walk during the final lap of the exercise. Shortly thereafter, the student athlete collapsed at the top of the stairs. The adults at the scene attempted to cool her down by dousing her in ice water, but Bell remained unresponsive. Paramedics arrived at the school within minutes, and Bell was taken to Southern Regional Medical Center, where she would later go into cardiac arrest. She was pronounced dead at 8:23 p.m., less than 3 hours after her initial collapse. Walker Asakir and Palmer faced charges of second-degree murder in connection to the incident. A local district policy requires schools to cancel outdoor athletic activities in the event that the heat index rises above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. On the day of Bell's passing, the heat index had swelled to 106. Number 6. Esther Stephen and Shelby Heistand, a pair of high school softball coaches from Portland, Indiana, were arrested following the fatal shooting of Shay Breyer, aged 31, on January the 12th of 2020. Esther Stephen, also 31, and Shelby Heistand, aged 18, conspired to carry out the murder while the former and Breyer were in the midst of a heated legal battle over the custody of their child. The two women had first met up at a church in Fairview on the night the killing took place. They called Breyer and made plans to pick him up at his home in Portland. Upon doing so, the three drove to a bridge on County Road 125 West. While on the bridge, Stephen distracted Breyer long enough for Heistand to grab a .22 caliber rifle and shoot the man in the back. Breyer was found lying in the middle of the road at approximately 2 a.m. and was subsequently transported to the hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Stephen and Heistand, who both served as coaches for the Fort Recovery High School softball team, were arrested 2 days later in connection to the shooting. Stephen reportedly told law enforcement that she'd become angry with the victim after he expressed an intention of establishing his paternity for the child they shared. Breyer also allegedly petitioned for child custody, filed for parenting time, and sought a name change for the child. Both suspects were ultimately sentenced to 55 years in prison for the murder. Number 5. Joyce Churchwell. The volleyball coach at Berry Hill High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was taken into police custody after allegedly engaging in intimate relations with a male student and a former teacher. Joyce Churchwell, aged 40, first contacted the student via Snapchat in mid-2019, sending him explicit videos and photographs. The coach, along with the unidentified female teacher, then invited the student over to her house, claiming her husband was out of town at the time. The student would later admit to law enforcement that he subsequently went to Churchwell's residence and had intercourse with the two adult females. In January of 2020, a warrant for Churchwell's arrest was issued by Tulsa police. She turned herself in and was placed on a leave of absence by the Berry Hill School District. Investigators discovered that the coach had sent additional messages to another student who hadn't followed through on her offers to meet up. Churchwell faced criminal charges as a result of the incident, and her teaching certification was revoked by the Oklahoma State Board of Education. Number 4. Logologoa Tevasu. A member of the coaching staff for the Santa Rosa Junior College football team was sentenced to a lengthy prison term following a fatal DUI accident on a frequently circulated California roadway. On the evening of November the 5th of 2017, 35-year-old Logologoa Tevasu was driving southbound down Lakeville Highway while under the influence of alcohol. The assistant football coach was reportedly swerving in and out of the painted lines, recklessly passing other vehicles in his 2006 Dodge Ram pickup truck. Tevasu's hazardous driving turned deadly when he crossed all the way over to the other side of the double yellow lines, moving directly into the path of oncoming northbound traffic. The drunk driver collided head-on with a 2015 Toyota Corolla being driven by Paulette Quiba, aged 21, a business student at Sonoma State University. The violent crash not only involved the vehicles driven by Tavasu and Quiba, but 3 additional cars as well. Emergency responders were dispatched to the scene, and 3 of the individuals involved in the wreck were transported to Memorial Hospital. A total of 5 people suffered minor to moderate injuries, while Quiba ultimately passed away from hers. She'd been driving to her home in Rohnert Park after spending the night with family members. They'd been celebrating the 10th anniversary of their arrival in the United States from the Philippines. Tavasu's blood alcohol level was roughly 3 times the legal driving limit at the time of the accident, and in the aftermath, he was held on charges of murder and drunken driving. The former football coach would have faced the lesser charge of manslaughter for Quiba's death, but he'd already been given a DUI conviction back in 2011. This caused his charge to be upgraded to second-degree murder, and a judge sentenced him to 15 years to life behind bars. Number 3. Haley Renault. A 23-year-old volleyball and basketball coach from Washington, Illinois, was arrested after it was discovered that she'd slept with a student. In 2018, Haley Renault was chosen to become a member of the coaching staff for both the girls' volleyball and basketball teams at Washington Community High School. She'd previously been a standout athlete at the school herself, before going on to play basketball at Eureka College. On July the 29th of 2019, Renault resigned from her coaching roles after allegations surfaced that she'd used her position of authority to establish an inappropriate relationship with a Washington student. Local police arrested the former coach on August the 5th, and she subsequently faced criminal charges in relation to her improper conduct. She was sentenced to 90 days in jail and 2 years of probation, during which she was ordered to perform an unspecified number of community service hours. Today's topic was requested by P. Calls, Mary Broom, Dove Master, and Sea Witches on Rye. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Taylor Boncal. Taylor Boncal, aged 22, was accused of maintaining an inappropriate intimate relationship with a high school student while she served as the coach of the school's track team. In 2017, Boncal was finishing up her teaching degree at Central Connecticut State University when she first came into contact with the 18-year-old male. As part of the requirements associated with her field of study, Boncal was a student teacher at Conard High School in West Hartford. The student with whom she would eventually strike up a relationship was in the social sciences class she taught. After graduating from her collegiate program, the Beacon Falls native was asked to join the school staff as an assistant track coach. The male student subsequently asked for Boncal's phone number, and the two began dating in December of 2017. During the course of their involvement with one another, Boncal and the student reportedly had intercourse on multiple occasions, with all of their meetings occurring outside of school property. The details of their relations were revealed to the school resource officer in West Hartford by an uninvolved student. Boncal was promptly fired by Conard High School, and a warrant for her arrest was issued by the authorities, at which point she turned herself into the police. Rather unexpectedly, the parents of the male student claimed that he and Boncal were in love, and consequently requested the former track coach not be prosecuted. While Boncal did initially face charges stemming from their relationship, she was admitted to a special rehabilitation program that resulted in the dismissal of all her charges. Number 1. Joseph Mills. On September the 4th of 1981, 31-year-old Linda Patterson Slayton of Lakeland, Florida, was found dead in her apartment, with evidence indicating that she'd been fatally strangled. Nearly 4 decades later, investigators were able to use DNA analysis to identify Slayton's killer as her son's former football coach, Joseph Mills, who hadn't been on the initial list of suspects. According to documents from the original court proceedings, Slayton's son Tim, who was 12 at the time of the incident, had told police that Mills had driven him home from practice on September the 3rd, the day before his mother's murder. In an interview with law enforcement, Mills claimed to have had a brief conversation with Slayton after she came outside to thank him for giving Tim a ride. According to Mills, he then left the residence and never returned. DNA recovered from the crime scene didn't match anyone in criminal databases, and the case subsequently went cold for 38 years. It wasn't until June of 2019 that police were finally able to name Coach Mills as the perpetrator of Slayton's killing. The positive identification was made by investigators through a process called genetic genealogy. Forensic analysts cross-reference DNA from a crime scene with public genealogy databases, which consist of DNA that has been voluntarily uploaded by members of the general population. In doing so, scientists at Parabon Nanolabs were able to select Mills as the most likely culprit of the decades-old crime. Upon confirming that Mills was responsible for the crime, Lakeland police took the 58-year-old into custody. Mills insisted that Slayton had died while the two were engaged in consensual intercourse, but evidence at the crime scene suggested otherwise, and he was charged with first-degree murder. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have to coach a professional sports team during a championship game without being able to prepare, or wake up to discover you have 5 minutes to put together a 20-minute presentation for your boss? Let us know in the comments section below.